On February 24th, 2008, any semblance of security Elizabeth Choi once had was about to change forever. After a wrecking ball chain of events would see Beth's life as she knew it come crashing down. Beautiful beaming smile belies the trauma and suffering that has led her to here and now. Hi Beth, I'm so thrilled to have you as a special guest on my channel today.
Hi Sharon, thank you so much for having me here today.
You're a born and bred Jersey girl, so what was it like growing up in New Jersey?
I loved growing up in New Jersey. I grew up in a very small town where we knew all of our neighbors. Very low crime rate, so the kids could play outside. No one ever worried about anything happening. You could walk to school. We had a little local downtown where we'd meet up with our friends. I loved it. It was a great place to grow up, and I'm so thankful for growing up in New Jersey.
Also a tennis player, you went to school on a full tennis scholarship.
Yes, I grew up a very competitive tennis player. I started when I was 6, and I fell in love with it. Eventually, I started traveling for tennis tournaments around the nation for nationals.
It's fantastic. So it's fair to say you've always been pretty active and fit. Not one to give up without a fight.
Tennis taught me to fight for what I wanted and to never give up, even if I was down. It taught me that if I wanted to do well in something, I needed to work hard at it. And then eventually I got a full tennis scholarship to Rutgers University.
Your parents must have been so proud, but in 2005 you were adamant. You were headed for the big city lights and moving to Philadelphia, much to their dismay.
Always been very independent. No one could ever tell me what to do. One of my lifelong dreams was to live in a big city. So that's why I chose to move to South Street in Philadelphia.
So did you feel safe living so far from home, practically living a whole new life away from the shelter of your parents and sisters?
At the time, I wasn't scared. I was just excited about something that I've always dreamed of doing.
But unbeknownst to you, life as you knew it would soon be a memory.
Yes. On February 24th of 2008, my entire world came crashing down. I had to fight for my life. My body went through so much, and mentally I went through so much. All the security that I thought that I had, and my entire world and life as I knew it completely changed on that day.
Would you like to walk us through it, Beth?
So every afternoon I would walk my dog when I would come home from work. And I became somewhat friendly with the owner of the restaurant that was right below my apartment. So every time I'd walk my dog, he'd be outside saying hi to people, and we'd always have small talk. I did not know him that well. He asked me one day if he could have a poker night with his friends in my apartment on a Saturday night. And I was very naive and trusting of everyone I knew. So I said, okay, you know, he could have a poker night. So that Saturday night, I went out with my girlfriend, Kelsey. We went out for a few drinks, and he came to my apartment with his friends to play poker. We came back at 12:30 at night, and she decided to spend the night at my house.
So when you came home, had they left? What did you come home to? There
were still people that were playing poker. I didn't know any of them except for the owner of the restaurant that was below me. Rather than asking them all to leave, I was nervous. So I said, okay, well, we're gonna go to bed now. And then Kelsey and I went upstairs to my room, and I did lock the door that night, and then we went to sleep.
Perhaps you did unconsciously sense something by locking your bedroom door. But what about when you awoke?
So the next morning I woke up, and I went downstairs to make myself some coffee. And there was some random man that I did not know who he was sitting on my couch. So I asked him if he would please leave. And his response was, I don't have any place to go. So rather than seeing that as a big red flag and leaving and getting out, I said, well, okay. So then I went back upstairs, and I told Kelsey that there was some man that was downstairs that didn't want to leave.
So did you sense danger? Were your inner alarm bells triggered?
Neither one of us thought it was danger at the time.
But that was about to change. What is your recollection of what was about to follow?
Then a minute or two, that same man came upstairs with a knife, my butcher knife from my own kitchen. And he holds it up to us and starts threatening us. And then he comes over to me and he sexually assaulted me. And then he gets up.
After the attack, did he say anything to you? What did he do then?
And he looks at us with that knife and he goes, no funny business. And he walked out of the room.
So did you think he'd leave, or did you fear he'd try to get back in your room?
At this point, we didn't know if he was going to be leaving, if he went to the bathroom, where he went.
I can't even fathom the adrenaline and fear running through your body.
So Kelsey just froze, and I was the one that reacted. And I jumped up, I ran to my bedroom door and I locked it. Threw on my warm-up suit and I ran to my window and I opened it.
You said earlier your apartment was above a restaurant, so that window was not exactly the safest exit route.
My bedroom was 3 stories up from the ground level, which is extremely dangerous to jump from.
So you were basically having to choose the lesser of the two evils.
I was not going to deal with him anymore. So then he ends up banging on my bedroom door, and finally he broke it open and starts running after us with that knife. And that's when I took off and I jumped out of my bedroom window. And I do not remember anything after that.
Fight or flight kicked in and you had to make your choice.
I am just so thankful that I knew how to open my window and that I thought of that. And the only thing at the time that was crossing my mind was escaping from this man that was going to potentially kill me. So I just wanted to get away from him any way I could.
Such a heroic action, choosing to let your body plummet to the ground rather than letting him hurt you again.
My mind was only about escaping this man because, again, he had a knife and we thought probably going to try and kill us. So I could have been 100 stories up and I still would have jumped because I was not going to deal with him anymore.
I think I read somewhere where he was not actually a big man, but with you and Kelsey only standing at about 5'1", in spite of your fitness level, you just had no chance of overpowering him.
He was not a big man, but he was a lot bigger than me and Kelsey, and he had a knife. And if someone has a weapon, you're always scared you're going to be stabbed to death. So there wasn't much that we could do to defend ourselves.
You and Kelsey endured unimaginable horror. He even had the audacity to curse your broken body as you lie in pieces on the sidewalk. What were you later told he said?
After I jumped, Kelsey said that he looked down at me and he's called me an effing bitch.
You are now injured on the footpath and I'm assuming drawing a crowd.
He saw that there were people all over the place that came running over to me to see what was going on to help me. From what I hear, Kelsey said that he was angry that I jumped and he cursed me as I was lying there fighting for my life.
So was your attacker detained on the scene, or did he make a clean exit?
He ran. He ran as fast as he could. He left the apartment and just ran far away. And Kelsey, thank God, was not in a position where she also had to jump.
In her desperation to escape, Beth plummeted 3 stories, was rushed to hospital with 22 broken bones, a severe traumatic brain injury, which left her in a coma for 5 weeks. Let's fast forward 5 weeks to you coming out of your coma in a fog, to your father telling you you're a hero.
5 weeks after I was in a coma and then I was moved into an inpatient rehab facility, I was in a room with a psychologist, my mother and my father, and they were first explaining to me what had happened. And the first thing my father said was, "You are a hero."
But you had no idea what he was talking about or why you were even there.
I had no idea what they were talking about at the time. I had no recollection of what happened. And it was hard for me to hear it. And at first I was in denial because I was so upset that could have possibly happened to me.
So you were actually given another name in the hospital as you came in minus identification.
My parents got that dreaded phone call that I was in the hospital fighting for my life. They immediately got into their car and drove 2 hours to the hospital that I was in Philadelphia. However, nobody could find me because when I jumped, I had nothing on me. So I had no identification. So 2 hours of them being in the hospital to finally find me, and my name at the time, they named me Bonnie Trauma.
That must have been even more petrifying for your parents. Getting that phone call, rushing to the hospital, only to get there and find out that the hospital's never even heard of you.
Because no one knew who I was.
But when you came out of your coma, you recognized your parents and sisters. much to their relief.
So after 5 weeks, I started coming out of my coma and I could barely speak. It was just a little whisper and I was very out of it. But I did recognize my parents and my sisters immediately. And that was an amazing sign at the time.
Because when you hit that pavement with such potentially fatal force, they didn't even know if they'd ever hear you speak again. So in the 5 weeks since you were picked up by emergency services, what exactly had transpired?
Now, during those 5 weeks, I had problems controlling my body temperature. So they would go back and forth between putting me in heating blankets when my temperature got too cold and putting me in ice baths when my temperature got too hot. I also developed pneumonia, which is common among patients that are in a coma for so long. I also had a stent put on the side of my head to relieve the pressure of my brain swelling. So they shaved half of my head of hair to do that as well.
When you first arrived at the hospital, the doctors didn't hold out much hope for you due to the most critical worry, the injury to your brain.
So during the first 4 to 5 days, the doctors were pretty much unsure if I was going to survive. It was back and forth, and no one knew if I was going to make it. Finally, when it looked like I would most likely survive, my parents were told that I would not be the same daughter because of how severe my brain injury was. I would most likely have a lot of lifelong injuries I was going to have to deal with.
You were soon transferred to a recovery center where your long rehabilitation began.
When I first left the hospital, I was transported to an inpatient rehab facility. And here, I was missing half a head of hair. I had a neck brace, a body brace. I was being transported around in a wheelchair because no one knew if I was gonna be able to walk.
Were you determined at this point?
I had just come out of a coma and I had a severe traumatic brain injury. So I could not control my emotions. Lots of crying, lots of confusion. And this time still is a little bit blurry to me because my brain was just healing over everything that I had been going through. So I did not have a whole lot of determination at this point. I was scared, I was confused, and this was probably the hardest time of me dealing with what happened was this part of my recovery.
Did you ever have dark moments or thoughts that you just didn't have it in you to fight it?
I had a lot of dark moments and fear, especially in the beginning. I did not understand how this could have happened to me. I felt like a victim. I didn't know if I was ever going to be able to get my life back to normal. I had moved in with my parents who became pretty much my full-time caregivers, who had to help me with taking a shower and walking upstairs. And I would say in the beginning, I definitely realized that I had a lot to overcome and I wasn't sure if I was ever going to be able to do it.
You were never a runner, but you were eventually allowed to hop on a treadmill where you found your escape.
So eventually in my physical therapy facility, they let me go on the treadmill and I was able to walk slowly on the treadmill.
So what did that feel like after feeling helpless and having to be cared for?
It was really hard for me to constantly have to be cared for so much by other people. I was very independent. I lived on my own, and to go from that to needing help all of the time, and my parents who were pretty traumatized from everything that had happened, so they never wanted to leave my side. So it was hard. It was a big change for me, and the beginning of my recovery, it was hard, and I did struggle a lot. Eventually, I was able to jog.
And you soon went from walking to running.
Soon enough, I started running. I loved this time. I looked forward to every single day showing up at my physical therapy and going on that treadmill. And I learned that was when I was able to focus on what happened to me because I no longer felt like a victim. I started to feel strong and I started to feel more like a survivor. And here I am, tough, able to run strong on the treadmill.
So in a sense, it gave you back your purpose, empowered you.
Running really was a huge part of my recovery, and to this day I still need to run. I love it.
Your recovery was tough, and I imagine took every bit of strength within to stay on course.
I had plenty of ups and downs in the beginning. Some days were good and some days were not good.
So what struck that determination to get strong and make a difference?
One day I went to my psychologist, my weekly appointment. It was at a facility that had a whole bunch of other people that had suffered from traumatic brain injuries. I was in a bad mood that day. And he said, turn around, look at everybody out that window that also has a traumatic brain injury like you have. Some of them can't walk, some of them still can't talk. Do you know how much you're inspiring them? And that was the first time that I realized that, wow, maybe I can make a difference. Maybe I can help inspire others. I can show that life can go on no matter what type of issues that we're facing. That's when I first started to really find where I can hopefully help make a difference with others.
I love that you came to that realization, because you, without question, do that.
I hope to show people that if they've been through something similar that I've been through, that life can go on.
I think you were spared to make a difference. That's why you're here.
I also am here to show that if you're struggling with something, never give up and keep on fighting, because you never know what could happen. I'm also here to show females and young girls about being aware of potential danger and avoiding it, and not getting yourself into dangerous situations like I did. I always say what happened to me was not my fault, but it's very important to just be aware of our surroundings and to protect ourselves as much as possible. So I hope to make a difference.
When was that moment you realized that you could help and inspire other victims of sexual assault and traumatic brain injury survivors believe that there could be life after suffering?
First time that I realized that I could help inspire TBI survivors as well as victims of sexual assault was the first time that I actually spoke at a self-defense course. I was so nervous, but I was ready to tell my story. And at that point, I believed I could hopefully make a difference. I had some people come up to me in tears and say that they were in something similar at one point of their lives. I had other people come up to me and say that they have a friend or a family member that has a traumatic brain injury. And I always say, please reach out to me, email me, call me individually. I like to sometimes talk to people and tell them, just one-on-one, like life can go on.
You are a victim of abuse or struggling with a traumatic brain injury. You can reach out to Beth on her Instagram page, TBI_runner_Beth. What I find most baffling is why your attacker was left in your apartment with two young women. Do you think maybe he hid? Have you ever had an answer to that question?
To this day, I have no idea why this man who attacked me was left in my apartment, and that's something I don't think I'll ever find out why.
So was he caught and sentenced?
He was caught and he was sentenced, thank God. He received 14 to 25 years. So he's still in jail to this day.
Thank God he's no longer on the street or a threat to others. So did this bring you any comfort and determination to be the change?
Yes, this brought me a lot of comfort and determination in being the change. He is in jail, he's been caught, and now I have found happiness. I found a wonderful husband, I have two beautiful boys. Since this happened, I have great friends. I found my strength, and I hope to show others that, good can come out of such evil.
That is such a powerful message. Good can come from evil. You deserve every bit of that happiness.
I really feel stronger now that I've found such happiness in my life, and he's in jail.
And you began running and you never stopped. I believe you said running makes you strong.
Running makes me feel so strong. From the minute I started, that was the first time that I no longer felt pain with what happened to me. I was able to focus on everything when I was on that treadmill, and I felt strong, and the more I ran, the stronger I would feel. And I started getting faster, and the faster I would go, I even felt stronger every time. To this day, I need and I love my runs.
Is it the endorphins, the fitness, or the freedom in running itself?
It helps me mentally prepare for the day after a good run. And it's been a huge part of my life ever since this happened to me. I think a part of it too was that I was in a wheelchair for a while and I couldn't even walk. So now I'm running, and I'm running every single day. It's changed my life in such a positive way. And I love running so much.
You are such a beacon of hope and inspiration. You went home to recover with your parents, and with their help, you got strong, both mentally and physically. So when did you compete in your first marathon?
So I finally decided that I was ready to run my first marathon. And I decided that I was going to do the Philadelphia Marathon. This marathon goes directly past my apartment that I was living in. And it goes directly past the spot that I was forced to fight for my life.
Whilst I understand you needed it for growth and healing, your family must have been worried. that could potentially be triggering.
My family was a little bit worried about me doing this. It would bring back too much emotion or too many bad type of memories. And I said, no, I know I need to do this. 5 years after my accident, I ran the Philadelphia Marathon. And at mile 5 is when I passed the exact spot that I was fighting for my life. So the minute I was running past that spot, I put my arms in the air. Like this is the strongest I've ever felt in my entire life was that day and that spot.
So that you had come full circle.
Here I was fighting for my life 5 years ago, and then I was running my first marathon, that same exact spot. And that was a moment that I will never forget.
You are unbelievable. In that moment, you completely took back your power. How many marathons have you since competing?
I have completed in 10 marathons since that day, so a total of 11 marathons.
It's fair to say running changed your life, and you use everything you've been through to change others' lives. You use your story to help raise awareness. You've since learned self-defense, and you're now a speaker. You teach young girls about safety and being aware of their surroundings.
So yes, I do speak now to young girls, and I try to teach them to be confident in who you are and don't worry about being so nice and hurting people's feelings. If something makes you feel uncomfortable, get out of the situation as fast as you can. And don't worry about anybody else but protecting yourself.
So what precautions do you take when out running?
As a female runner, I run alone a lot. It's definitely safer to run with other people, but it's just not possible to always do it. So if I'm running alone and it's dark, I only run in my neighborhood that's very heavily lit with a lot of light, and there's houses everywhere. And I do not go on my local running trail until it's light outside.
It's the most important advice you give them, and could also give my viewers about being cautious and staying safe when out running or alone.
Always carry pepper spray on me. I'll never run by myself without pepper spray. And I'll do the same route multiple times where I know it's safe and there's houses and other people around, as opposed to going to an area that I don't know and that I don't feel safe in. I also do not wear headphones.
I'm so glad you mentioned that, because so many crank the music up and off they go. I've also seen so many women and young girls fully distracted on their phones, not realizing that they're potentially leaving themselves quite vulnerable.
I'm very aware always of my surroundings. I try to do as much as possible to just be very aware of what's around me at all times.
So many are seemingly unsure whether they should be staring their attacker down or avoiding eye contact altogether. What are your thoughts on this?
I was taught to always look people in the eye, to look confident, and you want them to know that you know what they look like. And I've been told that looking scared or looking down or looking away makes you look more weak, and predators prey on weakness.
I was also taught never to leave with your attacker. Kick up a fight and make as much noise as possible.
Make them think that they're going to put up with a fight if they're going to try to deal with me.
You are now happily married with 2 beautiful boys and a strong work ethic. You want to raise your boys to know that if they want something, they've got to work hard for it.
Yes, I will always teach my boys that if they want something, they have to work hard for it. Nothing comes easy. You need to take the time and the effort, and whatever it is that you want, you can accomplish it, but you've got to work for it.
So tell us, what did you get as a special reminder for how far you've come?
So a year ago, I finally got a tattoo that I've been wanting for a long time. What it says is, with pain comes strength. And I feel like that defines my story. I went through a lot of pain, a lot of hard times, but because of that, I was able to find my strength. So this tattoo means a lot to me.
Love it. And what message do you have for my viewers and anyone who may be struggling?
No matter what you're struggling with, no matter how bad everything seems, look at the positive. Look at the fact that you're still here. Take it day by day and never give up. Yeah, I hope the reason that I talk to this day is that I really hope to be able to make a difference and help others overcome whatever struggles they're going through.
Thank you so much, Beth. It's been an honor having you on my channel.
Thank you so much for having me, Sharon.
Thank you for watching. This concludes part 1 of the Elizabeth Choi story. Be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell so you don't miss part 2. Elizabeth Choi surviving 9/11.
I see